So finally, my SSPX book, In Defense of the Society, is for purchase. It has just been published, and you can find that in the links to this video. If you've ever wondered if the SSPX is in schism, if they're in full communion, if Marcel Lefebvre was a renegade, if he was a rebel, can you attend Mass there? What about canonical mission? What about incarnation? What about the consecrations? Literally every single thing you've ever wondered about the SSPX, as far as I can tell, is answered in full in this book. So please give it a shot if you're a skeptic, and if you want to know more, then you'll have the information you need to defend your position. Check the links in the description. Enjoy the show.
But you did also do a video last year about the Society of St. Pius X and Marcel Lefebvre. But you said basically, you know, the analogy you gave, which I thought was so beautiful, at the crucifixion, the whole hierarchy had left, except for one bishop who stood there with Mary Magdalene and Blessed Mother. And so if we see the church going through her passion, which clearly she is, and we saw one bishop basically, or at least one man of a few, but the one who represented any resistance that any bishop could give was Marcel Lefebvre to what was happening. Can you speak to what caused you to sort of change your mind about Lefebvre and your understandings of obedience and things like that?
I remember after giving that analogy about St. Peter fleeing and St. John staying, who I think in a way, St. John, although he is an apostle and a bishop, he stands for the priesthood. And Archbishop Lefebvre was very much for the priests, right? Keep the priests existing. And he achieved that, by the way, for all of us. And some gentlemen on the internet who are, I can't remember their names, but they like to attack the SSPX. They said that I have no understanding of the scriptures or something because St. Peter wasn't yet the Pope.
Yeah.
Because Peter wasn't the Pope. And I thought, oh, you poor men, do you not know that the author of the scriptures can anticipate the future? This is the whole point of typology. He can lay something into someone's life, even in the New Testament, which speaks of the future. It doesn't matter that Peter wasn't yet Pope. But in any case, there were two things that turned my mind around about the SSPX. One was previously I'd never really accepted the argument that we're in a state of emergency. I always thought, no, there's always a way through. Things are grim, but there's always a way through. But frankly, when I've been told in what I thought was one of the last safe places in the church to keep tradition, that I have to start doing things which are against the rubrics and making the Mass into a circus with various
all the COVID mandate stuff. Yeah.
And then we see Traditionis Custodes and this blatant attempt now where they've put Francis in that document. The goal is that we're all going to go to the Novus Ordo. It's just a matter of when. Well, this is an emergency. And Archbishop Lefebvre just saw it coming decades before me and a lot of others. We have to admit he was right. Even though before I began seminary, I thought the Mass is the greatest thing on the planet because you've read the theology books. And even though when I was ordained, I believed it more, it really has hit me in a whole new level. And Archbishop Lefebvre knew this. Yeah. He knew that if we don't keep the traditional Mass, it's over. It's really over. He's done it for the whole church. And he took all the flack and accusations, all the injustices from Rome, which he took like a saint. I think the priests who, I know fraternity priests preach hard against the SSPX in some places in the States. They've really stopped it. Look, the world's huge. There's 8 billion souls. You're not in competition with any Catholic priest. You're in competition with the devil who wants to take souls to hell. So preach against him and not against priests who are offering the traditional Mass. Right. Lefebvre, it's amazing what he did. And I'm sorry that I wrote him off and spoke against the men. What's changed me is meeting faithful who go to SSPX Masses and then meeting SSPX priests and then reading his autobiography and reading his writings about they have enthroned him.
And there are plenty of examples in church history of bishops and priests disobeying superiors, even the Pope, in times of grave necessity. It's very rare. When I say plenty, I say, half a dozen. But there have been kind of half a dozen moments where something like that was necessary, and thankfully it's extremely rare. Just regarding the consecrations very quickly, you've probably referenced The Fundamentals of Catholic Dogma by Ludwig Ott. I mean, it's an exceptional book that's been used to form priests. It's very clear in that book that it wasn't the norm to have explicit papal approval for consecrations of bishops until about a few hundred years ago. And it's just said as it's an afterthought. It's just, well, this is the way it was for a long time. Basically, the point is, clearly, obviously, we have the laws of the church and we have to make every attempt to follow those positive laws. But the highest law is the salvation of souls. And as we've said, and as you've said so rightly in this show together, the preservation of the traditional mass it's not just about the smells and bells are important, because we're incarnational. We have to smell things. We have to taste things. That's not just a throwaway. Nonetheless, the traditional mass is the sustenance of creation.
Yeah.
And we cannot throw that thing away. And it's worth, as you said, resisting until it hurts. Yeah. It's worth being calumniated. And I'll say one last thing here about Lefebvre. I was talking to some friends earlier in a group chat. My friend mentioned pretty much everyone who hate each other somehow all come together and hate Lefebvre. And he said, that's almost Christ-like. And I said,